want to remind us that these are all unions, right? Who created and carved out states and boundaries, right? You can't pass, like, remember when you was growing up and you'd be on the playground, and on the playground you would make a boundary line to let the opposer or the op know, don't cross this line, because if you cross this line, it's going to be repercussions. It's the same thing, and consequences. That's right. It's the same thing with the Union States carving out these boundary lines, letting all nations know, do not cross. And it didn't matter if it was nations within or without the Union States. All nations knew this is the boundary line, do not cross this boundary line, unless you had a treaty. A treaty was simply an agreement, and everyone had a treaty with either someone or another. Islam, if you did not have a treaty with one nation, then you had a treaty with another nation, and then that nation had a treaty with another, so on and so forth. This is nothing new. We can go back and look at it in biblical times. We can see this in the book of Genesis, when they formed themselves as confederacies, right, under treaties, describing how they would trade and barter with one another.
That's right.
Islam. I have a comment.
So we see these, we see these treaties. I agree with you, Brother Sidney Hill. In order to fully understand this Halston Treaty, you have to go back to the previous treaties with the Cherokees to even know who the Cherokees are. Because from what I've seen, the Cherokees is a group of a whole bunch of different nations coming together under one banner of Cherokee.
Thank you.
It's not just just one, oh, this is who we are, and everybody came from the same great grandmother and grandfather. No, that's not what this is. This is a mixed breed. Right, this is a mixed breed. This is how a lot of the admixtures came in through this nation called Cherokee. This is how the $5 Indians got it. They got in through the Cherokee. Because it was the Cherokee was like, any and everybody can join. You didn't have to be a part of anything. Just, oh, you want to sign up here? Just pay $5 and sign your name on the dotted line. Here's your card. Here's your papers, and you keep it moving. You want that piece of land over there? Oh yeah, it's yours.
Dry anyway. Yeah.
So are you saying the Cherokees were $5 Indians?
Brother, Cherokee, okay, first and foremost, right? The Cherokee language itself is coming from what language? What's its mother language? The
Algonquian.
Algonquian, right? So if Algonquian language is the mother language of the Cherokee, that's where the Cherokee people derives from, right?
Yeah.
The Algonquian.
That's right.
Okay. So I'm missing a lot, but I'm trying to get in real quick if you don't mind. That language, Iroquoian. How do you pronounce it?
Iroquois.
Okay. Now
that's different from Algonquian now.
Yeah, that's we lost him, but whatever he was trying to say, I hope that he's able to type it in the chat so we can all
I'm back real quick.
Okay, he's back by popular demand.
Pluto to Earth, Pluto to Earth. Also these treaties with these Cherokees, you know, that's part of the trail.
Okay.
Islam.
He's gone once again.
Yeah. So Islam.
He's
brother
gone once
CDL.
again. But I just want to say this: the Cherokee Nation actually is the Cherokee language. Pardon me, is actually Iroquoian. All right, it's not Algonquian. It's Iroquoian, and the Iroquoian language is a part of what parent language? What parent language? Because we learned about these languages maybe 2 years ago now. So what's the parent language of the Iroquoian language?
That's the Algonquian. Yes. Brother CDL.
Pluto to Earth, Pluto to Earth.
Anyone else? What is the parent language of the Iroquoian language?
Nope. TTEE.
Anyone? We just mentioned it.
I have no idea.
All right, so let's do this. I want to share my screen.
Islam,
so everyone can see. Sounds like somebody has some bass going on in their background.
That's part of me being in space tonight.
Oh,
that's the neighbors. That's the neighbors.
You're partying. Okay.
No, that's the neighbors.
Oh, it sounds like you're the one throwing the party for the neighbors.
No, unfortunately, these walls are dead thin. He got beat the other night by his girlfriend with a rubber mallet.
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
Islam. So I'm going to share my screen now. Can everyone see the share? If you can,
we can see your screen and hear Sydney's noise.
Okay, Islam. So, Brother Sydney, we're gonna mute you out just a little bit because we are.
Let me just turn his volume down. 1 second. I'm gonna turn his volume down.
Islam gratitude. We want to get this recording so that everyone can hear it. All right. So this is the ISO list, right? This is the international standards. Right, the international standards of the languages, right? Now, the Iroquoian language, I mean the not the Iroquoian language. Yeah, the Iroquoian language. The Iroquoian language is a part of this number right here. ISO 6392. The ISO 6392. So the ISO 6392 is also a part of this language right here. Right? This is a older language classification. The Afro-Asiatic languages, right? The Algonquian languages is a part of the ISO 639-2. You have the Arawak.
I see some extinct languages.
Choctaw, Celtic, Shiny. How did the Celtic become a part of the ice? Wow. This is how you can tell who's related by the languages.
Hmm.
The Delaware, the Slav,
Got it.
German,
Bad.
Egyptian. Egyptian is ancient. The Hebrew,
Ah, the Hittite.
the Hittite is what?
Ancient. Long live Haiti.
Ancient. Right here, you see it says the Greek is ancient, but it's historical. The
What does
Greek
that
is
mean?
Greek
What's the
ancient.
difference between ancient and historical?
Historical is modern day historical.
How
So
can
this
it
ain't even this ain't even the ancient Greek. This is modern day historical Greek.
be like a screenplay?
Like old High German, like Middle High German. These are all historical. Gothic is ancient.
Got it. Huh. The real Germans.
All right. Hittite is ancient.
Iroquois languages.
Iroquoian, they don't even have anything for it.
Living, thriving.
No living, no constructed, no ancient, no.
Active.
Kawi is ancient.
Wow.
All right, I want to go Afro-Asiatic languages. There's nothing here. There's nothing for Afro-Asiatic languages.
That'll be historic, yeah, wouldn't it?
There's nothing for Iroquoian. We go back down to same thing with Creole. Same thing with Creoles. Nothing. Now the Church Slavic, Old Slavonic, Church Slavonic, Old Bulgarian, and Old Church Slavonic, individual, ancient. Cherokee, individual, living. That's because it is something new. This is something new. Choctaw, individual, living, because it's something new. Cherokee is something new that they done made up. Choctaw is something new that they done made up. The original name of the Choctaw is the Choctaw.
That's right. Chata Anumpa.
See? The Choctaw.
Oh yeah, that's right. The
Not the
Cherokee are known
Choctaw.
as
Cherokee is something new.
That's right.
You see this Celtic languages? It's nothing here. Nothing here at all. Central American Indian languages, there's nothing here. Batak languages, nothing here. Bantu languages, nothing here. When it's blank is because they cannot verify where the language began. Apache languages, nothing here. Algonquian languages, again, nothing here. But African is, here you go, individual living. Afrikaans is a West Germanic language that evolved in the Dutch Cape. So that definitely can't be us. Islam. Islam. So that's how you really trace people. You trace people by the language, you trace people by the geography. You trace people by what they ate. You know, the water description that they live close to. Even this is supposed to be Aramaic, it's supposed to be Ethiopian Semitic language, but this is new. It says individual living. And it's old, it's real what's that? Amarina or Amarina is older than it. And this looks like it's actually closer to what you would consider as a Spanish or like an Italian language structure. Even Old English. Is it really that old? No. Individual historical. So again, that Cherokee is a group of it's like a potluck. Everybody come. You know, Cherokee is like when they put out the request for everybody to come to my nation and help me build it up.
Islam. Islam.
It sound like Death Row Records. Everybody just come get signed up to my label.
Islam. What we're gonna find out in the next treaty, 1835, is that some of these Cherokee so-called chiefs signed these treaties, though when it was time to enforce them or whatever, all of the tribal families that did not agree to the treaty, all of the nations and tribes that were not present at the treaty, even didn't have no idea about it, they were forced off their land. And that's where we're gonna be at the Trail of Tears. Because not everybody was signing their name to be Cherokee, but they were forced into the migration. Islam.
Islam, that's right. And a lot of us was forced. There was many of us that went willingly. Because again, you get paid a certain amount of tributary annually. You're getting an annual tribute tax paid to you, just to see, show that, your nation better than your brother nation. I'm getting more than you. Has that actually stopped with us? Don't we see that today?
Indeed.
It's a sad thing. But again, Cherokee Nation is not an official. It's not real. It's just something that people just came up and just came up. Really, it's a come up. Yeah, it's a come up. Cherokee Nation. Or the Cherokee tribes, they came out of the Iroquois. All right, so the Iroquois pretty much created this nation, because what it really is a lodge. Most of these most of these nations created lodges, right? And another way you can look at a lodge is like a hmm, a a school, right? So this is how the lodges will be set up. Right, this is how the lodges would be set up to start to bring all of these tribes together. Right, so you got the Tuscarora, the Kiowa, so on and so forth, all in this Iroquois lodge. And because they all under Muslim law, right, what's going to be separated? The genders are going to be separated, right? Got the boys on one side and the girls on the other. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Islam. So again, this is an Iroquois lodge. And then you have these tribes in the lodge coming together under the same educational program.
Now that the Cherokee was an educational program, system of writing, on their own system of writing. I believe that might lead to Islam.
Islam. So yeah, the Cherokees and the Iroquois created this thing called Cherokee.
Islam, Pluto the Earth, like make a couple comments.
Islam, go ahead before you go back out.
Man, this is deep because that's supposed to be the Cherokee language. And on this Iroquois law, I can't pronounce it, but
Iroquois.
Iroquois laws, but it also connects to northeastern North American and Turtle Island. But dealing with the Confederates, it still links into the Confederate government. But some key words that was on the picture of that flag, dealing with the name Nimrod. And it's just funny because
Islam, it sounds like they took him away again. So
straight out Masonic
he's back.
charter. It's also a Masonic charter. The large the Iroquois Lodge F&AM of New York. So they're saying that wow. It started out as a language meant for the Cherokees, but what how society did with the language. That's,
Islam, are you still there?
Hello.
Yeah, sounds like he's gone now. So
He's giving up the ghost.
in Islam, the Beaver Wars, Islam, the Beaver Wars is we can go all the way back to the Beaver Wars with the Iroquois. All right. So it started in 1640. There was an intermittent war for over one of the most in demand luxurious items in the world, beaver pelts. Beaver pelts was one of the most luxurious items in the world. Wow. That's funny because you won't catch us today with no beaver fur on at all. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not no beaver fur. Beaver fur is more like considered today. Beaver fur is more like welfare fur.
German Shepherd.
Oh, oh. Yeah, we don't do beaver. We would be too embarrassed to tell someone that we were wearing beaver.
Oh yeah, you got picked on in school if you had a beaver
Right.
fur
Oh,
Yeah. But you know who does? Look, those hats, they call them the ultra orthodox. They
Mm-hmm.
they look like this beaver fur.
That is a beaver fur.
Okay.
Yes, that
and they're not
is
ashamed, but
no, they're
we
not
are.
ashamed of the gospel. Yeah, but we definitely are ashamed. I mean, come on, y'all. Y'all know we got picked on if we wore beaver fur in school. Yeah, you know we got picked on. But at this time, it was a luxury. Beaver
It's
fur.
a different kind of beaver.
Well, what kind of beaver is that? Because they
Water
Yeah,
rat.
those are those were the
water rat.
upgraded.
He
Those
said
are
the
not
water rat
beavers as
kind.
we suppose.
Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
He said the water rat kind. Yo.
I'm so mad. Mm-mm.
The war was fought between the Iroquois Confederacy of the St. Lawrence River area and the Algonquian speaking tribes of the Ohio country and the Great Lakes, who were backed by the French. These wars took place in the Great Lakes region. The Iroquois Confederacy was made up of 5 tribes that all spoke the Iroquois language: the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, the Seneca. These tribes were involved in the fur trade for over 200 years. Y'all gotta understand.
That's a lot of wealth.
200 years. Now, mind you, beavers was nowhere else in the world. This is another fact that you can use to verify that America is definitely the true old world. Beavers was nowhere else in the world. All of the world had to come here to get beaver fur. Islam. That's why it was literally a world war over beaver fur. Islam. You know, like today, how they have world wars over oil. I want y'all to understand how massive it is. No, today they have world wars over oil, technology, even now, right? Which equals data, water. You know, they actually had world wars over beaver fur. It said the Iroquois traded beaver pelts to British settlers and merchants, right? So the Iroquois is on the British side and the Algonquian is on the French side. Islam. In return, the Iroquois received items that they depended on, such as tools and firearms. Iroquois didn't need no tools. That firearm came in handy though. Best to believe that. A firearm was next level. Islam. By the mid-17th century, the Iroquois had hunted the beaver to near depletion. They wasn't letting these river rats live. Near depletion in the St. Lawrence River area. Needing beaver pelts to trade for much needed items, the Iroquois expanded their hunting to the Ohio country. When they did this, the Iroquois ran into other tribes in the region who also traded beaver fur. They ran into the Algonquian. So now this is tribe against tribe, nation against nation, right? So now you got to tribe up because we going to war. Because you can't come over here and take nothing that we own. This is ours. No, we're not letting you come over here. So it says, when they did this, the Iroquois ran into other tribes in the region who also traded beaver fur. These tribes included the Algonquian-speaking tribes, such as the Lenape and the Delaware Moors, and the French merchants that supported them. This accidental meeting led to a series of battles and bitter rivalries that lasted over 60 years. Warring over 60 years. Each side was vowing to be the main supplier in the lucrative beaver pelt trade. Although the Iroquois Confederacy could be considered victors as they conquered most of the Ohio country, they too suffered and lost much in process. Iroquois homes and agricultural land were often burned down by the French. In 1701, the Treaty of Great Pax was signed by the British, the French, the Iroquois Confederacy, and the tribes of the Great Lakes. The treaty did not push the French out of the territory, but it solidified an alliance between the Iroquois Confederacy and the British that would later help both in the French and Indian War. The Beaver Wars played an integral part in establishing relations between Indians and European settlers, right? So they getting back by the European settlers, which is the French and the British, right? Later on, when the colonists were fighting their King George, who came to help them win the fight? Who came to help them win the fight, y'all?
Colonists is fighting King George, who came to help them in the fight. The Iroquois.
The Iroquois. Who else came to help them fight? Who was the Iroquois in treaty with? I just read it right here. The French.
You said the French. Yeah.
The French. So you have the Iroquois, you have the French, and who else who came to help them fight?
Even the British, if they were members of the settlers, right?
They were fighting against the British.
Okay, excuse me.
The Algonquian.
Right.
The Algonquian speaking tribes of the Ohio country and the Great Lakes came to help the colonists fight off George. Islam. So as they go ahead.
No, I was saying it sounds like the first Confederate group that Brother Sidney L pinpointing now. The banding of natives with the European.
So they had to, as they are coming together, right? Remember the colonists, they don't have they don't have lodges that they have set up over here, right? That's teaching them really how to, they didn't know how to, hunt for beaver fur, because beavers are very clever. You know, you ain't just gonna go in the water, in the river, and just go, you know, get no beaver. You gotta create traps for beavers. And a lot of times them beavers, they're gonna get out of those traps. They're very, very highly intelligent.
But just imagine, I mean, who is hunting beaver? Beavers have done nothing to anyone, and we're just so aggressive against them.
Mm-hmm.
It's that waterproof, it's that water repellent fur that was attracted by the beaver. So,
and then, you know, they used to wear the hats. You think about Daniel Boone, who was a brother, and all of them, that's what they wore, with the beaver hats.
Right.
Y'all got
But it's still cruelty, though. That's why they turned to possum.
Okay. That's why they turned to possum. It was the says
no one wear no possum or eat.
No one, not one.
Who wears possum? Is that a thing?
Not a one. Not
right. It's not a one.
You don't have record of Moors wearing possum? Do I need to post the pictures? Should I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead and please. I'm gonna stop my screen for this. Go ahead.
No, I think Brother Sidney L has the pictures of the Moors wearing the possum. I don't have those.
Okay, so that's real Islam. That's good enough for me. So it wasn't a possum trade.
Actually, I wore Daniel Boone fur. I wore a raccoon hat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they back then, you got to understand something. You got to understand one thing. It was about commerce.
And some, I guess, no possum for pictures. Is that what it is? I believe so. Oh, he's back.
I think he may be ashamed.
I don't know about possum, but I know that when you say the word furs, F-U-R-S.
When you say the word fur, what happens? It's magic?
Say again, bro. When you say the word fairs, F-U-R-S.
Oh, so fur and fez is interchangeable. Is that what he's saying?
Bro, accent. Bro, in and out, too tough tonight. Islam.
Yeah, he's definitely in and out. So I'm gonna continue on, and maybe later on he can give us at least one picture of the Moors wearing possum furs, because yeah, we couldn't wear beaver furs. It was grotesque if you wore a beaver fur. And don't try to put on one of your friends' beaver furs and you think you're gonna bring it home, because you was getting a beating. Yeah, even I knew that we couldn't, and we wasn't allowed to do any of that. So out of teaching the French and the British how to, you know, how to trap the beavers, you know, how to get them and, you know, scalp the beavers, so on and so forth, how to prepare the fur for trade. They created lodges, right? Showed you the picture of the Iroquois lodge, right? They created these lodges, and so out of the lodges, you had many of the societies that was created. Many of these societies was created through these lodges. And one of these societies that we know of was the Sons of Tammany. Right? The Sons of Tammany was one of the lodges. Anyone knows where the Sons of Tammany came from, or the Sons of Liberty? Islam?
Islam, by way of Chief Tammany or Chief Tammany for one, right? Does it have to do with Chief Tammany?
Islam.
Tammany Hall?
Islam. All right. Here is so we all remember who Chief Tammany is, correct?
Islam. I found Sons of Saint Tammany, Islam.
Islam. So here is the gratitude for the link in the chat.
Islam. Those are some possum fur hats, by the way.
Islam possum fur hats, by the way. Gratitude.
I knew you would find them. You just believe.
Make this smaller. All right. Sons of Liberty were a grassroots group of instigators and provocateurs in colonial America who used an extreme form of civil disobedience, threats, and in some cases, actual violence to intimidate loyalists and outrage the British government. The goal of the radicals was to push moderate colonial leaders into a confrontation with the crown. The Sons marked one of the early victories in December 1765, the Stamp Act, the first tax imposed directly on American colonists by the British government. The first tax. The Stamp Act was the first tax. Had only been in effect for a month when a group of Boston merchants and craftsmen sent a letter to Andrew Oliver, the newly appointed official collector of stamps. The group informed Oliver that he was to show up the next day at noon at the Liberty Tree in the city's South end to publicly resign. Provided that you comply with the above, you shall be treated with the greatest politeness and humanity, the letter explained. The message left to Oliver's imagination what terrible fate might befall him if he did not comply. Oliver didn't need much persuading. He appeared as demanded, walking through the streets of Boston in a driving rainstorm, and quit his job to the cheers of a crowd of 2,000 people. It was an exhibition of the fearsome clout of the Sons of Liberty. The Sons likely formed from a secretive group of 9 Boston-based patriots who called themselves the Loyal 9. The first Sons chapter sprung up in Boston and New York City, but other cells soon appeared in other colonies as well. The group may have taken its name from a speech given in Parliament by Isaac Barr, an Irish member sympathetic to the colonies, who warned that the British government's behavior has caused the blood of the Sons of Liberty to recoil within them. Their most famous act of disobedience was destroying 92,000 pounds of British tea. Come on, y'all. They stole the tea. Nobody is just throwing that 92,000 pounds. You know how much money that is? They stole the tea and refused to pay the stamp tax on it. Islam, we're going to take your tea and we ain't giving you nothing. That's what they was on. In December 1773, the Boston Tea Party as an act would become known as one of the key events that pushed the colonies and the British government toward war. All right. Now, the Sons of Liberty, right, came from this right here. The Tammany Society. This is where it really came from, the Tammany Society. Right, the Society of Tammany or Columbian Order. Or Columbian Order was fraternal. Let me blow this up for y'all. The Society of Tammany or the Columbian Order was a fraternal, patriotic, and benevolent society. Dang, you fraternal, patriotic, and benevolent? You got a lot of things going on. Founded in New York City in 1786. It was officially organized under a constitution in 1789. It was officially organized under a constitution in 1789. The society played an instrumental role in the development of the Democratic Party in New York during the 19th century, and the name of its meeting place, Tammany Hall, became synonymous with democratic machine politics in the city. The society's members influenced local, state, and national party politics into the mid-20th century. The Society of Tammany or Columbian Order records dated 1791 to 1898 and 1916. chiefly document the society's administration, patriotic fellowship activities, and benevolent work in New York City during the early national period. The collection consists of society's minute books, 1791, 1844, 5 volumes, a slipcase of miscellaneous correspondence and documents concerning society and Democratic Party matters, 1810 1898, and bound photostat copy made in 1916 of the Society's Constitution and membership roll for the period of 1789 to 1916. Islam. Now, this society started way before 1786, right? Started way before 1786 because it's a lodge, right? It says right here, it was a fraternal, a patriotic, and a benevolent society. It started back during this time period. When they unified. They unified and became a union together. Because prior to that, right, they was fighting for over 60 years. Right, and this is the treaty that brought them together. The Treaty of Grande Pax. The Treaty of Grande Pax is where the Sons of Tammany came out of. Islam. So I want to go really quickly to the Moorish literature. Here we are, the divine warning. Let me share my screen. The divine warning to the nations, or the divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. See, that's what the Sons of Tammany was going through. The abuses and the mistreatments. That the British government was giving them. All right. So they carved themselves out a way to be able to get from under the British rule, and they created their own constitution. right? Now, they got their constitution from this right here. The Iroquois Confederacy and the Great Law of Peace. This is where they got their constitution from. No, I didn't want to go to. Right? So it literally lines up with the Constitution restricts members from holding more than one office in the Confederacy. The Constitution says the same thing. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 2, also known as the Ineligibility Clause or the Emoluments Clause, bars members of serving members of Congress from holding offices established by the federal government, while also barring members of the executive branch or judicial branch from serving in the U.S. House or Senate. Outlines processes to remove leaders within the Confederacy. Article 2, Section 4 reads, the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and the conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Designates two branches of legislature with procedure for passing laws. Article 1, Section 1. Or the vesting clauses read, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. It goes on to outline their legislative powers, delineates who has the power to declare war. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, also known as the War Powers Clause, gives Congress the power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. I mean, or this is the same thing before they even came up with the Constitution of the United States of America, right? This is also in the Articles of Association, right? The Farmers Association.
Is that going to be similar to 4-H?
Islam. So 4-H is a ongoing Sons of Liberty Lodge.
Mm.
So all those clubs, the 4-H, Girls and Boys Club, the YMCA, the WCA, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts.
Oh, the Cub Scouts too. Okay.
That's how they know so many secrets. I mean, like they got the 42 ways to tie a knot. I mean, all these different little things they teach them scouts, not just for boys, but they make it like it's so.
Islam.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, so we can trace them back even to this one right here. The improved order of Redmond. Right. This is one of the early versions of the Sons of Tammany.
Your screen hasn't moved from Divine Warning, Islam.
It's on gratitude. I'll share it. The improved order of Redmond, chartered by Congress. See that? Chartered, America's oldest fraternal order.
I mean,
Literally says the Great Council of the United States.
improved order of Redmond. There's a lot
13, this has 13 stars around the eagle.
And is that a lodge?
Yeah.
Like one we don't hear about, right?
Right, like one we don't hear about. Exactly. Says the fraternity traces origins back to 1765 and is descended from the Sons of Liberty. These patriots concealed their identities and worked underground to help establish freedom and liberty in the early colonies. They patterned themselves after the great Iroquois Confederacy and its democratic governing body. Their system with elected representatives to govern tribal councils had been in existence for several centuries. After the War of 1812, the name was changed to the Society of Redmond, and in 1834 to the Improved Order of Redmond. They kept the customs and terminology of Native Americans as a basic part of the fraternity. Some of the words and terms may sound strange, but they soon became a familiar part of the language of every member. Now, why would it be strange if they was really so-called American Indians? That don't make any sense. If that's who they really were, if that was their, if Iroquois was their Iroquoian was their real original language, why would it seem foreign to them? Because they're foreigners. They're foreigners. The Order of Redmond are foreigners. Islam said the Improved Order of Redmond is similar in many ways to other major fraternal organizations in the United States. The Improved Order of Redmond is a national fraternal organization that believes in love and respect for the American flag, preserving our nation by defending and upholding the principle of free government, America and the democratic way of life, preserving the traditions, yada, 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 yada. History of the Redmond. The Improved Order of the Redmond traces its origin to certain secret patriotic societies founded before the American Revolution. They were established to promote liberty and to divide the tyranny of the English crown. Among the early groups were the Sons of Liberty, Sons of Tammany, and later the Society of Redmond. On December 16, 1773, a group of men or members of the Sons of Liberty met in Boston. Here we go. Boston Tea Party. Once again, it's like the height of these people coming into anything in the world. So this Boston Tea Party, how they just stole 92,000 pounds of tea from King George. During the Revolutionary War, members of the secret societies quenched their council fires and took up muskets to join the Continental Army. To the cause of freedom and liberty, they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. At the end of the hard-fought war, the American Republic was born and was soon acknowledged among the nations of the world. They were soon acknowledged among the nations of the world. Ain't that what the prophet said?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, ain't that what the prophet said?
That's right.
Then he say, those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments. That is, are subject to a stamp tax. Are all subject to a stamp tax, which are abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitution laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery.
The once United States of America became recognized by the nations of the world, it became our responsibility to proclaim our nationality and not just run around or say it's our land without proclaiming.
Exactly. Because everybody was a part of a union. And your union made sure that you were to record your proclamation of your nation. So that we can be recognized.
Therefore, this ties us to Act 6 of the Divine Constitution bylaws.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. It says, following the American Revolution, many of the various secret societies founded before and during the conflict continued in existence as brotherhoods and fraternities. For the next 35 years, however, each of the original Sons of Liberty and Sons of Saint Tammany groups went their own way, right? Went their own way. Ain't that chapter 47? Holy Koran of the Moorish Temple of America? Islam?
Islam.
Isn't that chapter 47 of the Holy Koran of the Moorish Temple of America?
Islam, and some of them formed kingdoms for themselves. Islam.
Islam. So chapter 47. It says, pardon me, chapter 48. Chapter 48. It says, the Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth, that among the descendants of Africa, there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of men under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Charters are free.
Islam.
If the prophet has them to issue, then they are free and not so much as to be bought from another Moor. Islam,
Islam, that's that
as
$5 Indian demonstration, Mo.
Islam, as has been said, that when a temple is flourishing, Moors demonstrate that, oh, you bought that charter from so and so, so and so, so you're not legit. That is ludicrous and foolishness. Folly at its greatest heights. Islam.
Islam. Yeah, you can't no Mo, you can't buy a charter. Not at all. Charters can't be bought. The way that a charter is issued is in the form the same way that a share is issued,
Islam.
right? So you got to look at it in a business sense. Whenever you get a share from a corporation, right, you have to give an investment to that corporation in order to get that share. So you
Islam.
can't buy your way into it, right? But you can make
Absolutely
an
not.
investment of the share. And that's a lot of the misconception within the temples, Moors, in this $5 Indian demonstration with buying a charter.
Islam.
You can't
I
buy
was
it.
just reiterating what Moors are saying about other Moors, which I think is folly at its greatest heights, disrespectful toward one another by saying you're not legit because you had to buy a charter. That is a Moor who's speaking out of ignorance and no knowledge at all.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
No, that's what I was demonstrating. You know, I was reiterating something Moors have said.
Islam.
Moors need to get together and demonstrate that real love as is our first principle and stop backbiting one another and making us look foolish before the entire world.
That's right.
Islam.
Islam. So, I shared this before. What is a corporate charter? A corporate charter, also known as a charter or articles of incorporation, is a written document filed with the Secretary of State or Registrar in Canada by the founders of a corporation. It details the major components of a company, such as its objectives, structure, and planned operations. If approved by the state, the company becomes a legal corporation. A corporate charter is a document, then it goes into the key takeaways. Understanding corporate charters. The creation of corporate charters is the start of building new corporations. Corporate charters signal the birth of a new corporation. Once filed and approved, a corporation becomes legitimate and legal. The document must be created and filed before the company can transact as a corporation. If the corporate charter is not created before the business starts, the owners expose themselves to risks, including being personally liable for all possible damages and debts created by the business during the period that the corporation transacted business without a legitimate corporate charter. The most basic level of the corporate charter includes the corporation's name, its purpose, whether the corporation is a for-profit or nonprofit institution, the location of the corporation, the number of shares, right? So this is when the temples receive a charter, right? This is the issue of the charter. You got the corporate charter, and then you have the issuing of the shares of the charter. Islam says that are authorized to be issued. Ain't that what it just read? The prophet said that are authorized. The Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered incorporated organization Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the prophet has them to issue. And every state throughout the United States, etc.
Islam.
Islam. And the names of the parties involved in the formation, corporate charters are filed within the Secretary of State in which the corporation is located, typically. In the state in which the company is located, charges filing fee to process the corporate charter. Islam.
Islam. This is how you know that Moors aren't studying their literature. When they accuse one another for buying charters. Islam,
Islam.
that is clearly what the Prophet wrote. Islam.
Islam. A lot of it comes from, whatever my old man says, aka my grand sheep. That's really what it is.
They hating on one another in plain lingo. They just hating on one another. When you see a temple flourishing and offering love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice as is told to us by our prophet, Moors seem to want to hate against that and say, yeah, you're not doing it right. And you got all these backdoor Moors. That's all I see, these Moors trying to get in through the back door. And it just literally breaks my heart. Not to the point of being sad, but being angry enough to want to just choke them.
Yeah.
They just won't listen to the truth, or will they abide by what the prophet brought? Islam. That just makes you.
That's right.
I deal with Moors like that all the time, governors.
Yeah, I used to deal with Moors like that all the time. I've cut myself away from dealing with Moors like that all the time. Islam. Yeah, it's just I have decided some years ago it's just not it's really no reason for me to go back and forth with Moors. I got way more better things I could be doing in life, other than trying to explain to Moors. Either come to Sunday school, come to Koran class, come to Holy Night meeting, and learn, because that's the only way you're gonna get it out of me. Islam. Yeah, I did my I've given enough to the Moors and enough information. If they want it, it's out there. They can get it.
Definitely.
Islam.
I got that old Moorish warrior blood in me, and it just won't die. Islam, I congratulate you for having been able to make the transition. But that old warrior in me just want to hang him up to a tree. I'm just being truthful. At the same time, realizing that we have to love our brothers and sisters and treat them as such, but that makes my blood boil. More just won't get something so simple when it's put right before you.
Islam.
Gratitude, my sister, and congratulations for moving away from that ignorance that those Moors still carry today. I had a more, I'll demonstrate with you on another time pertaining to, I don't want to put this out on Koran class. But yeah, more recently demonstrated that to me recently. So and so bought that chart.
Islam.
Bunch of foolishness.
Indeed. Yeah, they don't understand business. Like they really don't understand business. This is how you know that a lot of Moors really behind the 8 ball.
Yes.
Because they don't understand the simple aspects of just regular everyday business, because every business who's issuing charters have to be able to provide shares. I mean, the prophet literally says it within more. I've had multi-millionaires, we've had attorneys, right? We show them the Moorish literature, we'll show them Koran, we'll show them the charter, we'll show them the articles of association. They're just looking like, who did this? How long ago? So you mean to tell me a brother was doing this back in the 1920s?
Mom. Legal documents.
They get it before many of us get it. And that's because they are doing everyday business.
Islam.
Islam.
I'm aware. It's just that the Moors are not. That's what gets to you.
Mm-hmm.
That they take our legal documents and benefit from them, that we can't do it. We can, but we just won't.
Right. That's right. That's right. And you know, it's crazy because for some reason Moors believe, because our organization is Moorish Science Temple of America, to them, they just believe that Prophet Noble Ali didn't follow any in any laws at all to unite Moorish Science Temple of America. Like, they believe for some reason that, oh, well, you know, the prophet just, you know, did these things and he didn't have to answer to anyone. I'm just like, then he wouldn't be a prophet then. He definitely sure wouldn't be a divine prophet of Allah.
That's right.
If he just did everything on his own will. Like, what are we saying? As if he didn't follow laws. He followed the laws of business. No matter where you go in the world, it literally says in the United States and Canada.
That's right.
So it's letting you know that in every country, you have to follow a form that has already been agreed upon by the people to establish a business.
Absolutely. You have to have permission.
You got to have permission.
Moses had to have permission.
Islam.
Back in thousands of years ago, Moses had to do the same thing in order to get across.
Islam.
And these things are written down. Moors just have to learn to do their due diligence and just simply read.
Moors need to, many Moors, they need to be re-educated.
Absolutely. I was just about to share that.
Because it's the public school, and then you got a lot of Moors that was in prison that learned and went to school in prison. So that's where they got it from. Which again is still the public school system.
Absolutely. And that's where they learned that false propaganda that was put out concerning the prophet.
Islam.
COINTELPRO.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get up on these things. If we're going to learn, we have to get up on these things and learn the history of the temple.
That's right.
The prophet had to go through much to get to where he had to be able to free us. And he had ran up against opposition in so doing.
Islam. So yeah, we going back to chapter 47, verse 14, it says, every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, true peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs. Now, this is the same thing that these lodges did.
Yes.
Right? It says they left, they continue in existence as brotherhoods and fraternities. For the next 35 years, however, each of the original Sons of Liberty and the Sons of Tammany groups went their own way. Even though they had the original foundation, they went their own way under many different names. In 1813, at historic Fort Mifflin near Philadelphia, several of these groups came together and formed one organization known as the Society of Red Men. The name was changed to the Improved Order of Red Men in Baltimore, 1834. At Baltimore, Maryland, in 1847, the various local tribes came together and formed a national organization called the Grand Council of the United States. With the formation of a national organization, like Boss don't even understand what the prophet did. He ain't did nothing that we're not supposed to do. With the formation of a national organization. Well, what's the Moorish Divine and National Movement? A national organization. The Improved Order of Red Men soon spread, and within 30 years, there were state great councils in 21 states with a membership of over 150,000. The order continued to grow, and by the mid-1920s, there were tribes in 46 states and territories with a membership totaling over 1/2 million. Today, the Improved Order of Red Men continues to offer all patriotic Americans or an organization that is pledged to the high ideals of freedom, friendship, and charity. These are the same ideals in which the American nation was founded. By belonging to this proud and historic organization, you can demonstrate your desire to continue the battle started at Lexington and Concord to promote freedom and protect American way of life.
Talk about my ancestors.
Wow. So, one of the goals of the Red Men, right, one of the goals is the Red Men's week of December 16th, designated as National Red Men's Week. So we just had Moorish American Week, right? And some of the Moors was like, ain't no such thing as Moorish American Week. This is how short bus many of us are. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't even understand it at this,
That same short bus is keeping it out of schools, though it's present in most cities right now.
Islam. Yeah, it's just it's sad, it's sad because it's like foreigners get it. Foreigners remember everything that our ancestors taught them, and they're keeping the ways of our ancestors. But us, it's like, all we want to do is just fight each other. Pocahontas. Oh, we ain't even get into that yet. Who are the Pocahontas? The name of the degree of Pocahontas is taken from the celebrated character in Native American history, Pocahontas, whose brief life presents a touching and beautiful picture of grace, beauty, and virtue, as well as constant friendship to the pale faces. To the pale faces. This is how the red man came through the order of Pocahontas. Wow. Islam. So with that being said, if there's any questions or comments, if not, we're gonna go ahead and close with the closing prayer. Pardon me, with the warnings and then the closing prayer. Islam. I want to remind everyone that we will be back here. We'll be back here Friday for Holy Night. All right, so we'll be back here tomorrow for our second genealogy class. It's the 26th. Almost forgot. Islam at 7 Central Standard Time. So call all your loved ones, call your neighbors, tell them to get into this class so that they too themselves can find their ancestors. Islam? With that being said, if I don't have any questions or comments from the grand sheet or anyone else, I'm going to go ahead and yield for the warning. Islam.
I've spoken enough. Just want the Moors to realize that if you want to really learn about the Prophet Noble Ali, do your due diligence in your research and discover what the Prophet was up against when he was in Chicago against all this court and tail pro foolishness and false propaganda that was put out pertaining to the Prophet to steer the Moors away from the Prophet and the truth. Islam, I give.